Aloha everyone, welcome back to Heartbeat Narratives. My name is Molly and I'm your host, and I'm so excited to welcome Lily Māhealani Mitchell to the podcast today. Thank you for coming, Lily.
Thank you for having me.
I'm really stoked that we're having this conversation because we connected, I think about a month ago at the Wahine Freelance Alliance, Ho'ike. So shout out WFA and all the Wahine over there who are doing awesome entrepreneurial work. But we were able to have a one-on-one conversation and I got like a little glimpse into your life. You've been busy.
Yeah, it's been a fun year.
Because you graduated from college too, right?
I did, yeah. I graduated and came home for a bit and have been trying to get on the employment train.
Yes. And I wanted to give folks a little bit of background about all the things that you do because you are a Native Hawaiian artist. You're focused on cultural and community efforts through your visual communication and art. I love that you're dedicated to Aloha ʻāina and history. You have this creative element to your work, and then you're also involved in a lot of innovative spaces. Everything that you do is beautiful as well.
Thank you so much. Yeah. I bet it's been a bit of a nightmare researching or writing for me. Oh, there's this thing and that thing. But yeah, I'm grateful to be here and to just chat with you about everything.
When I met you and you gave your presentation about the different art forms that you've created and dove into the last, I don't know how many years you've been doing this, we can get into that too. I was just really impressed by your dedication to the variety of everything you've done, from like watercolor, oil, illustration, murals, and film. I just found out that you've even dabbled in film.
Yes, I think I love art and creativity just for the passion of it and the beauty, which I think throughout my life in all the classes and the advice I've been given about portfolio, like, oh, generalist is too many things, but I just love everything, and I've really tried to try new things. Even in college, how I dabbled in film, even though most of my background is in like painting and illustration. For some reason, my brain was like, if I'm gonna pay for school, I may as well learn something new, like a crazy person. And so I was like, I'm gonna go into film because it's different and it's a new medium and it's a super versatile thing that everyone ingests. Which it wasn't for me, but I did it for a year and I was like, maybe this is why people do what they've been doing for a while in school. But yeah, just got a lot of variety going on.
I think you're making it worthwhile, like expose yourself to everything, see what sticks.
Yes.
And that feels like a smart approach, especially when you're in college. I would love to hear about where is home for you. Where are you from?
Yeah, I'm from Aiea on Oʻahu, and I just realized that technically my ahupua'a is Kalawao, not Aiea, but my Hawaiian family is from Kapa'au on Hawaiʻi Island. So that's my dad's side, and then my mom's side is from York in England. So I feel like I'm a person from many places similar to you and embracing lots of different backgrounds.
Yeah, you're weaving your identities together because I know you went to school in Leeds in the UK, so that's really close to where your mom is from.
Yeah, it's always been really important to me to connect with family. I think my parents really instilled that into me, that like every Christmas and holiday we'd go to Hawaiʻi Island to see my grandparents and connect with my dad's roots, and my mom would try and bring me to England every year to connect with her roots, just making my life more full of everyone's backgrounds than just what I'm experiencing in my personal day-to-day. And so for college, I wasn't super keen on going to America for school. I think everything is expensive and they got their own stuff going on, and I'm really passionate about indigenous sovereignty, which I know maybe doesn't make sense that I went to England, but I'm very grateful to have a dual citizenship.
Oh, you do? That's
yes.
Great.
So I was like, if I'm gonna pay and go through the effort of moving, I may as well go all the way. Which is another thing, I'm like, oh, this is why people don't do it. And so it was important to me to be near family, even though I'm gonna start a new life and go to school or whatever. I was like, I want some kind of base.
Yes.
Or some grounded roots that I can have to touch back with. So I went to Leeds, which is not too far from York. So in my mind, I was like, it's a jump, but not like crazy.
I think that's a beautiful thing that you're weaving in family wherever you go, but you're still on your own adventure. I think we have that in common where we're still figuring out our identities and having family from all over the world. There's more than one way to be Hawaiian.
Yeah.
And we're kind of like pushing the geographic boundaries of what that can mean while still trying to stay rooted in our values and like where you were raised. Like, clearly home is important to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Which I definitely haven't been able to shake. No matter like my location, I still feel very connected to Hawaii, which is nice.
Yeah, and Hawaii Island especially. I do think it's really important that people, wherever you go, to have those roots back home and to like maintain that connection, whether it is through art or documenting or writing letters to family, but maintaining something so that you can keep the culture alive and active in your day-to-day. So Lily, what brings you joy? What makes your heart beat?
I love storytelling and creating art, especially art that's grounded in documentation or Hawaiian culture, which I guess cultural art is a form of documentation. Yeah, and I guess a nutshell. an oblong-shaped nutshell.
So how did you get into art in the first place?
I think the thing that's coming to mind, my mom loves Barnes and Nobles and bookstores, and so I would always go with her. And at some point, she purchased for me, this large rose book, where it was a photography book of just roses. So I guess it's fitting that my name is Lily and I love flowers.
Oh, so that is so fitting.
I was like, oh my God. And then I got home, and I just was so intrigued with these roses. And I guess I had paints, and so I would just start painting, and I painted pretty much every single rose in this book, and I fell in love with trying to recreate what I saw and the details. I guess that was like my gateway drug into realism and painting, where I started with acrylic, I did painting of the flowers, and then branched out in high school to oils. And my foundation in the love of arts is rooted in realism, which I think in the age of like technology and pictures is a bit, I always think it maybe doesn't make sense because it's so easy to take a picture of something that you think is beautiful. Well, I would be like, no, I'm gonna spend 30 hours painting this thing and trying to get every single detail. And I don't know, I always respected the craft, and I think there's so much therapy too that comes from tediously doing little things. And so yeah, that's where it all started for me.
Even back then, your first entryway into the world of art was like, I want to make everything look as close as possible to the real thing. What a vivid memory to have from like your childhood.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. I think I was aware and everyone was like, oh, you can make your own version. And I guess in the art community, style is super important. But throughout all my art classes, I was like, no, I'm painting this portrait and it's going to look like that. And I'm going to try my best. And it's probably not. But everyone's like, you can like relax about it. And I'm like, no, it needs to be like this. Which I've since loosened up a little bit, I think, and tried a little more variety and all that.
Yeah. I mean, I was looking at your website and your portfolio, which all of you should check out, by the way, because it's incredible. I'm not an artist, so when I see someone who has this gift that you clearly have, it's like getting a peek into like your mind, how you perceive the world. How would you describe your own style?
Oh, that's a good question. But I think in my last year of university, when we've been trying to put together, our graduating portfolio, I had so many conversations with my tutors, and they were like, you got a lot going on, we got to figure it out. I think the style that I have is less about what it looks like and more the messaging through it, because I'm quite particular in that whatever message that I want to share has a medium that it needs to be told in, rather than making something fit into what I produce. So probably why everything looks a little bit different and is like, whoa, why are you doing this thing? I try to listen to what needs to be shared and uplift that in the best light.
I think that's really cool.
Thanks. Yeah.
And I feel like there's so much time to evolve too. You're finding your voice through your pieces, and I feel like maybe it'll come forward even more strongly in the decades to come because you have so much time to keep making art. I wanted to ask you, what is your inspiration? Where does it come from?
I would say my biggest form of inspiration as of lately has been Hawaiian culture, which maybe sounds a bit generic. I think living far away from home and being totally isolated from Hawaii and any sense of community, because I was the only Hawaiian that I could find out there. And even in the school, like I went to Leeds Beckett, which was a smaller style university, so I only encountered 2 or 3 other Americans. I would say things people would not understand what I'm saying. I think in having something taken away, it really made me think of all of the ways that my life is grounded in Hawaiian culture and Aloha ʻāina here. I think I'm noticing things in my life in absences, or just seeing things online, or just thoughts that I'm having. In school, they would give us prompts about what, make something about a silent voice or whatever, and I just always kept coming back to aspects of Hawaiian culture that would just pop in my head, or protest pieces, and yeah.
You've really had that grounding in your education to come back to those foundational pieces of culture, and having grown up here, it's just built in you.
Yeah, definitely. I think my upbringing and going to school at Kamehameha, the way the curriculum is built and a lot of the kumu I had, less textbook learning of history, but more like the way of thinking. I guess I didn't realize it was built into my psyche until I went over there and everyone was like, what are you going on about?
I think that those moments of contrast make it even more obvious of what you do value, and how other people view the world too can be so different when you were raised on an island in the middle of the Pacific, and then you go to a very westernized city and you're kind of your own island.
Yes, definitely. I think a sense of community and the valuing in nature was something that I was missing. Especially, I was living in the city center and I couldn't drive up there. I was relying on public transportation. That was a nightmare to access green spaces. And there's not a lot of sun there, as I discovered. Which, another thing people have already told me, but I had to experience to process. And so I think making an effort to make art include or focus on ʻāina in some capacity was something that people maybe didn't necessarily get over there. Like, enjoying nature and art were pretty separate in a lot of ways. And even when people would reference it, like, oh, I went to do a cold water jump, it was never, or even resources in school that were shared about, like, people that promote sustainability or take care of natural spaces, like, Indigenous people were never really referenced, or people of color, like, not nearly as much as they should be, given that's where we all come from, ʻāina, and the Indigenous people are those that are promoting that way of life as closely as possible today and stewards of the land. And so I think the lack of it was like, these people need to know what we have known for a long time.
And it's so interesting because I feel like if any person goes back far enough in their history, we all came from deep connections to land. It's just how removed are you from those connections? And here in Hawaii, we're not as removed because our whole world is these islands. The natural resources are entirely what we rely upon. Whereas if you don't know where your food is from, or like how what you do affects the water, or the ahupua'a, or that what you do up Mauka affects the reef, if you don't see those connections in your day-to-day, you'll just have more and more distance between ʻāina and person.
Yeah, absolutely. I think kilo is another value that I've really tried to include, and I think recently realized is like the foundation of my art is like kilo and observing. And I appreciate what you said about the ahupua'a system and everything is connected is something that we just understand here. And it reminds me of a project I did through university where it's called Reforest Leeds. It was a research project prompted by the Royal Society of Arts. They did a competition and we had to do one of the briefs. And so I researched like water wastage it's a city, and I would be walking, and when it would rain, England's a wet place, so it was like, oh, like, it rains, they know how to handle rain, but the cities would be flooded.
Really?
And, like, pools of water, and when I would be on the train visiting my grandparents, like, fields, which maybe this is normal, but it didn't look normal, would be covered in water and overflowing, like, ridiculously. I was like, oh, that's weird, because that's, like, their thing. And then in summers, it would be on the news that, oh, we don't have enough water, and I'm like, but you did, though. You did have water. So where did it go? And so I did a lot of research into, like, biophilic design and connecting the water you can use again later when you need it. Like, just get it when you need it from the tap. And the response to that, because I did this proposal and did architectural research, and I was like, we need to put, like, vines and plants on all of the concrete buildings and, like, roof gardens to let the water seep in. It's just wasted space. And these cities that are so removed from ʻāina, like, those are the people that need it the most, especially the economically disadvantaged areas. They need the ʻāina to bring them joy. You have space, just pop some plants on the wall. And everyone was like, Lily, this is a graphic design course.
Oh, interesting.
And I'm like, no, but you don't get it. You have to connect the dots. And I felt like very mad scientist, and they're like, so what are you graphically designing? And I'm like, I don't know, but you gotta get what I mean.
Yeah. So you were like one of the only people who got that connection between people and land, and to even try to communicate that it wasn't being received easily.
Yeah, I think, so I'll go back. I started university in filmmaking, and the way that school works in England is when you pick something, that's all you do. So I enrolled in filmmaking, and you don't pick classes, you literally show up, and then you do what they tell you to do for 3 years, and then you get a degree in that one thing.
Got it.
And that's all you do. So the first year I did filmmaking, and I didn't like it. So then the closest thing I could switch to is graphic design, which I actually, like, never wanted to do, even though it makes the most sense. But as a fine artist and a painter, I was like, I'm not a designer, I'm an artist. Like, I don't know what that word is. And I think I was like, I don't want to work on computers. I want to do hand analog stuff. And so I ended up in this course, and I was like, okay, I guess I'll give it a go so I can get a degree. And I just tried to make everything something else in this one prompt. It's like, you just need to put plants on your wall. I don't know what that means for me, but that's what I need to tell you right now. They were like, what? Okay.
Wow, what an experience, though, to go from a place like Hawaii, where everything ties back to the green world, our natural spaces. And then I just can't get over the fact that it wasn't obvious to other people that, like, we should touch land once in a while, or like implement ways to retain that water. So when there is a water shortage, they have access to it. I feel like that's seen even here in the islands, where, like, our spaces are so much more built up than they used to be, that there isn't enough fresh water to go around to residents or land, so that it doesn't start on fire and cause wildfires. It's just, if all the resources were able to go where they needed to go, like they used to, water especially, we would be totally fine.
Yeah, definitely. Like, the value of water is just something I think, I'm just baffled that more places don't value it. Not just the green spaces in our ʻāina, but even the beaches and our shorelines. And I think in Hawaiian culture, obviously water is so important to us, Waiwai is wealthy. It's logical, right? It's the root of everything. We need water to live on a basic scale, that these places are not connecting the dots.
So I know that you've done a variety of different projects, and there were two specific ones that I wanted to ask you about, and one was your SOS book, Save Our Surf. Could you talk about that one first, and then we'll go into the other one next?
Yeah, that book I did recently in my final year of university in January. I was like, okay, I'm going to focus on the craft and the techniques and do a pretty project. And I was like, okay, well, how about I do the ocean? Like, the ocean's pretty. And I was trying to come up with something to do, and I just couldn't. I was like, I'm uninspired, nothing. I just couldn't, my mind was totally blank. And I was on the UH archives in England, just scrolling for something, and I came across these posters by John Kelly that he made from around like the late 60s to the 90s through the Save Our Surf movement. And I was like, these are just absolutely gorgeous. And they told stories of shoreline protests in areas that I had no idea were beaches that people used or green spaces not even that long ago. Even like Kaka'ako and the reef runway. I was like, what? It wasn't always a runway. And it just was a big light bulb in my mind because when I was home earlier in January, stressed trying to graduate and cost of living crisis, and I was talking to people and like the urbanization of Honolulu and, opinions about, they're building affordable housing, apartment buildings, and it's good because, Kaka'ako and some areas are run down anyway, and at least they're doing something. And I was looking at these posters and being like, well, they weren't run down originally. Like, people made them wastelands, be like, well, it's better than what it was, but originally it was something better than everything. And it just, I felt really inspired to take all of these posters and could read and enjoy, and I put some little journal tip-ins in, so I wanted people to flip through the pages and be able to rethink about their personal experience with each of the shorelines.
Where can we find the book?
So it's at a prototyping stage, and if anyone wants to publish it, I would love to talk to you. But you can view some pictures on my website and my Instagram. I went through a rundown of how I made it.
So as you were talking, you were also sharing a bit about your archival research and your experience. I think that's an underutilized and undervalued skill, but so useful. How did you learn how to do all of this research, like cultural research, archival research, and so forth?
I think it just came out of being stubborn and far away. I was scrounging for what I could find, and a lot of the newer Hawaiian books are not available digitally. And so the archive was one of the few things that I could go to, download, and look through in full. I think I've always loved source material. I can't say that my thirst for knowledge is in everything. If something breaks or tech, I'm like, whatever. But I think I just have an itch that I can't scratch, and I love hearing it straight from the source. And they're just beautiful. If you look at these documents, and I was fortunate enough to help the Hawaii Council for Humanities archive some of their stuff. And looking at these documents, like the texture of the paper, the language that people use, the way that we talk about things, I don't think we realize how much it's transformed over time, especially in the Hawaiian Renaissance era and when the U.S. overthrow and statehood was pretty fresh. The perspectives and words used to describe Hawaiian culture are so different from what they are today. And I think reading into everything that people say and the way they talk to people and who their audience is can tell us a lot about issues that we deal with today and where they come from. And I think it's really healing too, because being in such a colonial place like England and trying to connect with my culture and seeing kupuna who were doing the same thing in their own home, it's like empowering and healing to know our generational trauma and feelings of confusion about urbanization and like why Hawaiians can't speak their own language, and learning where it came from, I think, can help heal how we move forward.
Yeah, I think you're hitting on something really important, is just like maintaining those connections, even when you are far away and amidst a community that doesn't fully understand your roots, but you're still holding on. And I love what you were talking about, source material too, and going to the primary source of what was that first documented evidence of maybe this art or this event, or written directly from the author who was there at that moment in history. My parents are librarians, so
no way.
Dream job. I feel like you would be a great librarian if you ever want to do a career pivot.
Yeah, I think I'm too loud, but if I talk to less, maybe they'd hire me.
So UH has a really good library information science program, one of the best for master's degrees.
Oh,
yeah.
real?
Yeah, so a lot of people come to Hawaii, just an FYI. It might be like a complimentary degree.
Yeah, no, thank you for that.
I feel like what you're doing by like going to the source, the origin, is such an important element of, I think, being an artist, because that's where you get your real inspiration, is from the root. And it feels like Hawaii is also your root.
Yes.
Can we talk a little bit about your Kumulipo project?
Yes. So last December, our tutors proposed to us the ISTD brief, which is a typography project that we do. Gets entered into a contest, and then they pick the best one. And so one of the prompts was find typographic material about plants. And for some reason, my brain was like, oh, the Kumulipo.
Yeah, the original story.
Yeah, because they were like, you need to have something that has a lot of words because you have to typeset it. And I was like, duh. And I didn't end up pursuing that, but I just couldn't shake, like, the Kumulipo as what we all know is this, like, mass of oli and 2,102 lines, like the longest chant. And I was like, I actually really don't know that much. And so I was doing research over there and looking online, trying to find information on more than just, I guess, like the first few va that we all know about, like the ocean and the mountain and those connecting and that kind of thing. And I just couldn't really find that much. I managed to find a PDF that had both the Hawaiian and the English, which is another thing that was hard to find. Like, you can find PDFs of books, but it was either only the English or only the Hawaiian, and I, like, couldn't highlight it. And so I ended up separating every line individually, Hawaiian from English, I guess decolonizing it in a way. And I didn't know what I was doing. I was just like, I'm just gonna do this. So it took me a lot of hours and, like, reading every line of the Kumulipo. And most of it is the names and the genealogy. It, like, made me feel so many things about why don't we have this information? Why can't I read it? And I ended up finding information from Martha Beckwith's book, where her Kumulipo book was one that I could access digitally, about, not a lot of information is available because people are keeping it to themselves and they don't want to share it. And it's prized for them. But the way that she wrote it is in a tone of, like, they're being so stingy, they don't want to share it with us. And as I was figuring out what to do with it, I was like, her personal background, maybe that information is not for you to understand, and that's why it's not available for you. And I thought about my work in England, and as a Hawaiian, even though I'm making work for Hawaiians and using Hawaiian culture, like, maybe it's not for these people to know. And so I was like, I want to do the Kumulipo, and it's a beautiful piece of text. So I ended up taking out all the diacritical marks and formatting it onto this massive B1 sized sheet. And I printed on colored paper clear ink. So it was like a print of the Kumulipo that was hidden, and you could see it under a certain light in different shades, because I wanted it to be going from dark blue to, like, light blue, where it's rising out of the ocean, kind of paying homage. It's kind of weird because if you look at them, it looks like blank sheets of paper, but I think it's a testament to, like, if you look at it and you can't see anything, then it's not for you and you don't have enough context to appreciate it, so you shouldn't. And if you do, then you should, and that's great.
I think that's a really fascinating way of interpreting knowledge sharing, too, because the Kumulipo as the Hawaiian creation story, you do need to have some level of reverence towards it to really absorb it fully. And I think you're getting at, like, the hidden layers of understanding Indigenous ways of knowing, because I feel like there have been a lot of books that have come out lately that kind of combine the Western ideology or, like, Western sciences with traditional ecological knowledge, trying to blend them in a way so that everyone can have access to these are the best ways to care for ʻāina, to care for land. I'm thinking of braiding sweetgrass specifically, and how beautifully written that is, because it does weave in the science as well as the Indigenous knowledge. But there's only so much you can do to communicate Indigenous ways of knowing unless the other folks meet you halfway. It's not like we're just going to divulge all information and allow things to be privy to folks who maybe aren't ready to receive that level of depth and history and culture if they're just not there yet in their learning. And you're totally getting at that with your art.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think while obviously keeping information private is good, there's a lot of Hawaiians and people that are passionate and want to care. And I don't think shutting them out and being like, no, this is for only us is a very positive way moving forward. You know, everything's global now. I totally agree with the weight needs to be on the participant to learn and be invested and transform the way of thinking and way of life to be in alignment. Indigenous ways of life and solutions are not band-aids. It takes a lot of transformation in the ways that we live our like modern life to be able to appreciate and be respectful to that culture.
So getting back to the actual making of art, how does it feel when you're in the process of creating something like a mural or a watercolor painting? Like, how do you feel when you're in it?
I think usually I'm inspired because a lot of my art comes from like a need or like an itch. I feel like it has to be done. Or maybe angry too, I think, especially because a lot of my stuff focuses on like problems or disadvantaged communities where I'm driven by like, how dare they, or this information needs to come up, and I think like desperation maybe is the best, maybe not the best, but it's the way that it is sometimes.
Yeah, and when you create the piece, do you feel like it's a way of being liberated from that emotion or just expressing it? It's out of your body at that point.
Oh, that's a good question. I think maybe a bit of both. I feel gratification in providing a potential solution or, I guess, aid. And it is very therapeutic because a lot of the artwork I do is quite tedious. Doing monotonous tasks of cutting and pasting lines of the Kumulipo or fiddling with collages is like stress relieving for me.
Yeah.
It does help me process a lot of personal emotions.
And I saw this beautiful mural that you did on your website. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so I'm very fortunate during my time in high school to have been part of the mural club, which Kumu Bosher was our kumu for it and helped my friend Anna and I and the rest of our little art group. And so I just loved murals, and I believe art is for everyone and everyone should have beauty in their life. And so when I went to England, I was like itching to just do another one. So I walked around and I tried emailing people and I was like, I'd love to do art for you. The Leeds City Council got back to me and were like, hey, sure, we have a rundown wall in one of our markets. Would you like to do some art? And I was like, yes! And so it was like a volunteer style project in this tunnel that connected two parts of the market and the bathrooms. I wanted to connect my personal Hawaiian culture with what they were experiencing because the market was super diverse, lots of cultural foods and independent vendors. And so I painted some childlike ohi'a'ai and avapuhi and did a little story about my papa who had an ohi'a'ai tree. And I just wanted to do something fun, and that was like a nightmare in making, I think. I sign up to these things and I'm like, yeah, I'll do the whole tunnel, I'll do like every wall.
Wow.
It was maybe like 60 feet of space. There's holes in the wall that I have to wiggle my little paintbrush into, and it's very narrow and there's hundreds of people. But that was definitely one of my favorite things, I think, just to give back to the community that I was part of for the 3 years and uplift the vendors and more economically disadvantaged people, because a lot of homeless went through the market too, could just enjoy.
When you said art is for everyone, I feel like that is a culminating way of like you expressing accessibility and so forth for people who may not be as tapped into their creative side, and art being for everyone. How can like just an everyday person be more creative from your perspective?
It's just noticing things about your life. Like I think with social media and technology, everything being so black and white in the way that we talk about stuff, just observing, oh, the wind is like that today, or oh, I didn't know that flower has that shape, or oh, I didn't realize my mom was familiar with blah, blah, blah. Like pulling on little details from your life and I guess thinking, how does that make you feel? What do you want to do about it? And how, if you have stories that you feel like people want to share, just noticing things, I think, about your own life and asking yourself, what do I do about that noticing is a good start.
Yeah. And I know we've touched a little bit on like the documentation side of things, but for you as a Hawaiian, living so far away in the UK and then trying to go back to London soon, how are you able to document your own life throughout this process? Do you feel like it's through your art, or are there other ways that you express this growth that you're going through as a Hawaiian person, being in so many different spaces?
Yeah, I think I'm still struggling with that, but taking pictures is just something I do. Like, I think in the 3 years I've been at university, I have over 30,000 pictures and videos.
Wow.
I love food, anything I see on the street, like sunsets. Like I love taking a picture. And I think that's something my mom, she has always done. Like every time we're out, she's like, smile. And my grandparents too, who was recently flipping through my genealogy book and like hundreds of pictures. And so I think, yeah, I maybe want to dabble a bit more in photography, but that's, I guess, the best way I found to just capture moments.
Yeah, I love your social media too.
Oh.
You've done a very good job of documenting your processes as an artist, and I think that's an important part of the communication as a visual communicator. Show the behind the scenes too.
Oh, I appreciate it. Yeah, thankfully university was really good in instilling that skill in us. Yeah, it's a whole thing. Being an artist and an entrepreneur, like, you gotta wear every hat, and you do the job, and you do the art piece, and then it's like, okay, well, now you have to promote it, and you have to frame it, and put on your website and social media, and it's a lot. Still working on it.
I can take lessons from you because you're doing a very good job. Is there anything else that you wanted to share while we're talking about joy or art or documentation?
Yeah, I think these past few months I've been home and I just didn't realize how much joy like weather and ʻāina brought to me. Well, I guess ʻāina I've always known, but like ʻāina encompassing even like the sun and the wind and the weather and like every aspect of the natural state of the world. Being home in the sun, obviously for me in England, has been nice. And I don't know if you're into astrology, but I'm a Leo rising.
Okay, tell me
so,
more.
Yeah, my mom's an astrologer.
Really?
And so, yes, yeah. She's a woman of many things, which I'm very grateful to her for bringing me up with astrology and numerology and massage and all these things. Anyway, so I'm a Leo rising, and the sun is very important, and so I'm just like, that makes sense. I love the sun. Even though I'm going back to England, I'm like, I will be the sun over there.
Yes, you are. That's a great perspective. We're all out here doing our best, but I feel so grateful to have had this time with you, Lily, because I'm excited for people to see what you've created too. So be sure to go on Instagram as well, because I'll be posting some of her pictures and linking her social media. But where else can people find you and your work?
Yeah, I think my website, Māhealani.com, which my first and middle name put together, so Mahea is Māhealani and Lily. And yeah, just my Instagram, I think. Those are my main platforms. But thank you so much for having me, like, talking about my passions and what makes each of us happy is just, like, the most uplifting thing. So I'm very grateful.
Thank you so much, Lily. And mahalo, everyone, for tuning in. We challenge you to tap into your creative side. Maybe do that project that you've been putting off. Now is the time. So kick off 2026 with a little bit of creativity. But we'll catch you all on the next episode. Aloha.
Mahalo.